What is going on, guys? Andrew Hayes here with another video, or another wrestling video, I should say. And as always, joined by my bro, Double Nine. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, you guys? Film Fan 0599. We're back with another wrestling video, and it's going to be a list video this time.
Yeah,
Boys,
it is top 5 most underrated WWE wrestlers. Now, like I said in the title, it's strictly WWE wrestlers, not wrestlers, just yes. WWE. So, let's get going, I guess. Do you have any honorable mentions?
Do you?
I have quite a few.
I do too. So, who wants to go first? Do you want to go first?
I'll go first. All right. In my honorable mentions is Shelton Benjamin, Owen Hart, Eugene, Tyler Breeze, John Morrison, Raven, Luke Harper, and R-Truth.
Okay.
And that is it.
Okay.
What about you? What do you have for honorable mentions?
Nice. All right, my honorable mentions are William Regal, Zack Ryder, Ted DiBiase Jr., and I know some people might be a little bit like, really on this one, but Sheamus.
All right.
So those are my honorable mentions.
Okay. All right, so we can get right into our top 5. I'll start. Same rules apply as last week. If we both had the same number, if we both had the same number 5, 4, whatever, we both discuss it together. But anyway, my number 5 is Matt Hardy.
Hey.
All right, so Matt Hardy is in my number 5, and the reason he is at number 5 is because I think that and we'll get I'll talk a little bit about this a little bit later, but you know, he was in he's famous for his tag team work with his brother Jeff, and everybody always liked Jeff more than Matt. And I love Jeff, don't get me wrong, but I've always been drawn to Matt more. Especially, and I think a lot of why, because I really started watching wrestling in the early 2000s. That's when I started watching, so he was very prominent. Yeah. He wasn't Jeff wasn't even in the company when I started, and I didn't really have that great access to the internet, so I really didn't know who Jeff was when I started. I just knew there was Matt Hardy. Obviously, later on, I knew who Matt was, or I knew who Jeff was. But there was a period, I want to say, in at least in 2003, 2004, at least 2005, Jeff wasn't around in WWE. So Matt was one of my favorites at the time, especially in 2005 with, you know, what he was doing with Edge at the time. I thought that was like probably one of my favorite feuds, and he quickly became one of my favorites with that feud alone, and then what he did on SmackDown with MVP, I thought that was great stuff. And then, you know, when Jeff came back and they won the world title again in, I want to say 2007.
Yeah, 2007.
Is when they won it again, and that's really the first time well, Jeff came back, I want to say in 2006. I could be wrong.
No, he did 2006.
Okay, so Jeff, so that was my first time. So I had I've watched Matt a lot more, I've been watching Matt for a lot more, so that's why. So I mean, and I can totally understand why people like Jeff more. I mean, Jeff is fantastic, but I've always liked Matt more. And I've always been drawn to Matt more, and I really don't think he truly gets the credit he deserves for the for not only the tag team stuff, but for his single stuff. He did some great stuff in ECW, I think, and especially in his later career, right before he retired, I thought the hot commodity became Matt and not Jeff. So like the roles reversed, and So I really think like he's on this list for me at least because he just hasn't gotten the recognition he deserved. I think, and this is going to be a thing I will be repeating. I think he deserved at least one good big main event feud or one world title run, and that's going to be a big thing. That a lot of these people, except for one, there's one person on my list that has had a world title run. But most or the other four haven't had world title runs, and that's kind of what I based my list off of. And Matt Hardy, I totally deserve to thank a world title run. That's it for me, Double Knife.
All right, so all right, I guess we should move on to my number 5 now. I guess if you're done.
You can go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm done.
If you're done talking, of course.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, so my number 5 is Shelton Benjamin.
He just, like, when I say just missed my list, like he just missed my list. All right, he froze, so I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more. Let me find out real quick what happened. Sorry about this, technology sucks. But anyway, Shelton Benjamin, like when I say he just missed my list.
Okay, hopefully this works a little bit more. All right, so.
All right, you're good.
All right, I'm good now. Okay, did you go over everything you want to talk about with you?
Yeah, Matt. I'm good with Matt.
Okay, all right. So my number 5 is Shelton Benjamin,
and as I was saying, he just missed my list. Like he was my number 6.
Yeah, he's one of the most gifted athletes out there, honestly, and he really doesn't get the credit that he deserves. He's put on some really great matches. Accomplished a lot in wrestling. He really has. Like he's won the IC title multiple times. He's won the United States Championship, multiple time tag team champion, and one of the competitors that has competed in some of the most Money in the Bank ladder matches. He's a Money in the Bank MVP, if you ask me. And so he's done a lot in the company. I feel like he doesn't get enough recognition for that. In his first major singles match on Raw, he beat Triple H. Like, how often does that happen? And he's just one of the most gifted athletes out there. And I feel like he doesn't get enough recognition as he deserves. He's one of the best.
All right, froze again. So I'm just gonna again speak a little bit more on why he just missed my list. Reason he missed my list, and when yeah, you froze again. Why don't you? Can you hear me?
Let's see if I can switch on my phone because it's acting up on my computer. I don't know why. Hold on. You say your number 4 while I get that done.
Okay. Before I say my number 4, I missed an honorable mention. Finley is an honorable mention of mine. Just just missed my list. Only 5 spots. There was a lot of people who deserved to be on it, and he just missed my list. All right. Number 4 on my list is a guy who I feel like has time after time I felt like he's going to get to that next level, but just for some reason he hasn't been able to. He is one of two current people currently on the roster, and that is Cesaro. I think that Cesaro 100% has everything for a main event star, but for some reason hasn't been in the main event, hasn't had that opportunity. I don't even think he's been in a world title match, other like a one-on-one I'm talking about. I know was in that ladder match back in 2014 when Daniel Bryan got hurt, but I very much think he deserves a world title run in the future. I think he should have at least had one run by now. And I really hope that, and I love him and Sheamus together, but I really hope now that he's on SmackDown, the main event field is kind of not as like it's easier to win because there's not that many people. And I really, really hope that with him on SmackDown, he will be able to get that opportunity. But he is just someone who's so good in the ring, and I think actually has a lot of charisma and whatnot, despite what Vince McMahon says. I don't know why he thinks that. He's stupid sometimes. But Cesaro is just somebody who I think should have gotten a world title opportunity by now, but just hasn't, and I don't know why. I think in 2014 he was on fire, and even in 2016 he was on fire, and he just hasn't had that opportunity, and that really upsets me because I really do love him. He is I think one of the best on the roster. And especially with this tag team work with Sheamus, it really proves that he can put on a great match with pretty much anybody. And I really would love to see him when and if Sheamus and him break up. I would love to see him get a shot at the world title and at least get one decent run with the world title because he deserves it. And that's my number 4, Cesaro. So if you are ready, Double Nine.
All right, I'm on my phone now, so this should work a little bit more. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my number 4 is Goldust.
Mm-hmm.
Goldust is easily one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. I've always enjoyed him. Now I really did. When I started watching wrestling, he was on ECW actually. When I started watching wrestling, I thought he was weird as fuck, but I loved him. And he would come out with like the blonde wig and the fucking robe and shit. I'm like, what is this guy? And I love him. And he's a great in-ring worker. He's accomplished a lot, and it sucks that he never got to hold the world title, honestly. Like, because he had so much charisma. Even with that bizarre ass gimmick, he made it work. Like, he made that shit work. It was entertaining to watch. I loved him for that. He was great, honestly. Like, he is one of the most talented and interesting figures in wrestling. He's been there for a long ass time. And, he's always been one of my favorites. I've always loved Goldust. Wish he could have won the world title at some point, to be honest. So, yeah, that's my number 4, Goldust.
All right. My number 3 is someone that I have actually met in real life, and that is William Regal.
Oh, yeah.
True story, I met William Regal. I went to NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, and the NXT roster was staying at the hotel I was at. So as me and my friends were going in, he was coming out, and I was like, holy shit, that's Regal. And we met him, took a picture with him, and he's very nice. Very fucking tall. I know he doesn't look tall on TV, but, he's very tall. But that's not saying much. I'm a short person. But anyway, William Regal, again, I think is one of the best workers ever in wrestling. I think that he is one of the best technical wrestlers in wrestling. And the reason I didn't put Finlay on my list was because I felt like him being underrated is the same reason why Regal is underrated. So that's why he didn't make my list. And I think Regal is just better, and I just like him more. But anyway, I love what he is probably one of the best heels ever. He definitely one of my favorites. I loved what he just did in WCW and what he has done in the early 2000s with WWE. I loved what he did with Eugene and whatnot, and I love in 2008. I want to say when he was
King of the Ring,
the King of the Ring, and the Raw GM, and what he did with that. I thought that was fantastic. Probably one of my favorite general managers of all time. I like what he did with DCW with Ezekiel Jackson and somebody else that we'll get to a little bit later.
I think I know what it is by that.
But I like what he was doing with ECW and whatnot, and I just think that he definitely deserved for how great he was and how good of a worker he was. He definitely deserved at least one world title run. He has won the Intercontinental title a few times, been a multiple-time tag team champion, but just never was the world champion. And I think that's a bit of a shame because he is definitely someone who deserves it. And I think when I think of best wrestlers to never have win the title, I know you have people like Razor Ramon and Roddy Piper, Dusty Rhodes up there, but William Regal's at the top of that list for me as well because I think just of how great he was, and he never did it. I think that he should have, and it just really wasn't appreciated for what he was doing at the time. And now I think everybody appreciates him now that he's retired and doing his general manager stuff on NXT. I think just for the time, he should have been a little bit more appreciated.
Yeah.
And William Regal's my number 3.
My number 3 is Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy's always been one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Matt Hardy was unfortunately put into a place where he was a part of a tag team, and the other person in the tag team was much more recognized and much more popular because, obviously, it was Jeff, so everybody loved Jeff. I mean, I do too. He's my favorite wrestler, for Christ's sakes. But that's not taking anything away from Matt. Matt is still one of the best wrestlers out there, to be honest. He put on a lot of great matches. I loved all the gimmicks that he did. Version 1 is one of the best gimmicks ever. Like, I love that gimmick that he did, the Version 1. That was great. Or, like, the feud that he had with Edge, which I think is his best singles feud, to be honest. That feud he had with Edge is one of my all-time favorites. My all-time favorite steel cage match is actually the matchup between them. Honestly, like, I love that match between
them. Yeah, no, that was a great match.
I love that match between the two of them. And, then when, like you said, when he went to SmackDown, he did all that stuff with MVP. Very underrated feud. I actually thought they had a very entertaining feud. Like, they did, like, pizza eating contests and, like...
I enjoyed the fuck out of that feud.
Like, that was entertaining as hell, and I love their chemistry with each other. And then when
they ended up winning the tag titles together.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then when he came back, he actually he actually ended MVP's long-reigning United States title reign. And then Matt went to ECW, where I think he really shined the most, honestly, because he was on a platform where basically he was the biggest star on that show. Mm-hmm. And where I think he really could have shined the most. And the only world title he ever won was, in WWE, was the ECW title. He had a great run with that title. He much deserved it, in my opinion. I would have loved it if he won the World Heavyweight title at least one time when he was on SmackDown. Honestly, if anybody should have won the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 26, it should have been him, to be honest.
I'll get to who I think should have won in a little bit, but...
honestly, him or the guy that I think I know for sure that you're talking about, but like he should have at least held the world heavyweight title at least one time in his career, to be honest. He and then when he came back, he did the thing with Jeff again, and, he went on to do the Woken gimmick in WWE, and it's been very entertaining, and, he's just one of the best, and, I feel like he doesn't get enough recognition as he really should deserve, because, even though Jeff is my favorite wrestler, I can totally understand how someone would put Matt over him, because Matt is just as talented and just as competitive as he is. So yeah, Matt Hardy comes as my number 3.
All right. He was on my list, so I definitely agree with him being very underrated. But number 2 is someone who I've always said is criminally underrated and has always been personally one of my favorites. I've teased it throughout this whole fucking thing. My number 2 is Christian.
I'm shocked that's not your number 1, to be honest.
I'll explain why it's not my number 1. He's not my number 1 because he has won the world title actually twice.
Yeah, he's won it, but the way that they did with him as the world champ, yeah.
Yeah, and I say at least he's won it. He is still criminally underrated in my opinion, and I'll explain why my number 1 got the slight edge and has always had the slight edge in my opinion. But Christian, extremely underrated. Definitely deserved a very much longer run title. And again, and I love Edge a lot, and he's great. But the same case with Matt Hardy. I've always been more drawn to Christian, and I don't know why. When he came back in 2009, I want to say. He was my favorite for a long, long time, and pretty much up until CM Punk got prominent again. Christian was my favorite for a long, long time, and a lot of that has to do with his TNA stuff. I loved what he did in TNA. I think when he was in TNA is when TNA was at its best, and he came back in 2009 and I think had a great run in ECW. Did the best of what he could, and finally won the world title after his buddy retired. And I think they completely wasted him, and that's why I think he's always deserved last shot. And the silver lining is I think he had a great heel run. Like his heel stuff was great, and I loved his feud with Randy Orton despite them not booking it the best. I did love the stuff that they did.
I thought they could have booked it, even though I did enjoy it. I thought there was areas that they could have booked it a bit better.
Yeah, and I think they could have done the heel run, but could have done it a lot differently. And but he definitely deserved a better run with the world title. Definitely deserved just deserved to be treated better. Definitely one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and and very, very underrated in my opinion.
All right, my number 2 is John Morrison.
Nice.
John Morrison has always been one of my favorite wrestlers, to be honest. He is most certainly one of the most athletic. If you've ever seen some of the parkour stuff he does is absolutely insane. I loved his documentary. What made me a really big fan of his was that documentary that I saw of his that WWE released a while back. And I really admired that the dude's talent and just his in-ring work. And a lot of people don't give him credit for his mic skills as well. He was very good. I thought he oozed charisma. And, because of course he started out as Johnny Nitro at first. But then they repackaged him as John Morrison. And, he had the tag team with The Miz and stuff like that. Which they still remain one of my personal favorite tag teams, to be honest. Those two had great chemistry with each other. Mm-hmm. And then once they broke up, Morrison went to SmackDown. And he had a great run on SmackDown, to be honest. He won the Intercontinental title from Rey Mysterio, which... that is an underrated match. If you have never watched the matchup between Mysterio and Morrison from SmackDown for the Intercontinental title,
yeah, no, that was a great match.
Watch that shit. That is both one of their best matches, to be honest. That is an amazing, amazing match. Go check that shit out. And, he won the Intercontinental title there. And, he just, he went on to do so many great things. But here's the thing. WWE, once he went to Raw, WWE never really picked up on him. He did get a shot at the WWE title. That went kind of nowhere. He was in the main event picture for a little bit, and then R-Truth kind of hurt him. And then he went on a losing streak for a bit, and then he ended up getting released from the company after that. I felt like they could have done a lot more with him at WWE. I know there's been rumors forever that he would return to WWE. Hopefully, maybe when he comes back, since the brand split is a thing again, maybe he could do something well on SmackDown Live. I would love to see that. But yeah, John Morrison has always been one of my favorites and a guy that I always felt has been overshined by WWE in a lot of years.
Yes. Definitely, again, he was on my honorable mentions, so definitely very much deserved to be on this list. And I can understand. Is that it?
Yes.
For you, I can get to my number one. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, my number one is someone I believe you mentioned. Someone that I've always said is criminally underrated, and that's Goldust.
Yes, he was on my list.
Goldust is my number one. I think he is the most underrated wrestler in WWE history. For the simple fact is, he's always given the character of Goldust 110%, and he's always put in great work from his work when he first started to up until now. He's always Goldust has been such a consistently great character, and he's just never gotten the world title and and I very much think that he should. And I think his stuff in 2013 with his brother, with the tag titles, proved how great he was and how great of a wrestler and worker he was, and proved to me how much he deserved it. And even when I look back at his older stuff, how great of a heel he was and how much heat he got. And that just, again, also proved to me how great he was. And I think he very much is overlooked on how great he was. And I mean, his career is winding down. I know he's hurt right now. So I really don't think he is going to get a world title opportunity. I don't think he's going to just be around much anymore. But for him to be as old as he is and be as consistent as he was at such an old age and so late in his career is pretty amazing to me. And I just to see how consistent he was throughout his career was pretty great. And I very much think that he is the most underrated wrestler in WWE.
Nice. All right, my number one is Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Christian, I have always felt has been the most underrated wrestler in wrestling history, to be honest. Now, I know some people might think that's crazy since he did win the world title and, he did have a lot of problems. But here's the thing. WWE always just made him feel like a second-rate Edge to me. And even though he was his own guy, and that's because he always lived in the shadow of Edge. And that's why I always hated, because I know Edge and Christian are arguably considered the greatest tag team of all time. But Christian really came into his own, I thought. Once they broke him up, I really thought he took it into his own as a single star. His singles run with, the IC title and stuff like that was great. And then when he left the company, I think honestly when he left the company and went to TNA, I felt that really improved upon him even more, honestly, because it just really gave him the motivation. And when he came back in 2009 to ECW, it was absolutely fantastic, to be honest. I really loved his stuff in ECW. When he became ECW champion, that was great. That was really the first time he won a major world title in WWE. And that was a great moment. Honestly, if you ask me, I felt like they should have just kept him as the last ECW champion. If you ask me, honest, I don't really know what made it even significantly matters to Ezekiel Jackson, but whatever, that's just me. I thought
Ezekiel Jackson.
Who the fuck even remembers Ezekiel Jackson?
I remember. I remember everything.
People actually still remember Christian, you know what I mean? So that goes to show you with WWE sometimes. But you know, and then he went on to then he was involved with Alberto Del Rio. Got hurt for a little bit, then he came back. But then he ended up winning the world title, and WWE made him lose it in 2 days. Because that was smart. And then they put him in a feud. Sure, he did have his best feud, in my opinion, with Randy Orton. But I felt like there were some other areas that the code really developed upon and stuff with that. But Christian, I always thought, has never gotten as much recognition as he really should deserve, because he is one of the best competitors in the company. And I really thought, like I said, everyone always made him out as like a second-rate Edge, and which I think is really unfair, to be honest, because he was much more than that. He was a great wrestler and a great competitor. It was one of the best that the company had, to be honest. And I feel like they never really, even though they made him the world champion, never really fully grasped on his full potential.
Yeah, no, definitely, again, how I stated, he was my number 2, and definitely deserves, definitely can understand why he's your number 1. We actually have very similar list. I believe that the 2 that you had that I didn't were on my honorable mentions. So, definitely very similar train thoughts. Is there anything else you want to say in terms of underrated wrestlers and whatnot?
No, I think I pretty much got everything I needed to get off about that. Honestly, but here's now there were some guys I could put on this list, say if this was a couple of years back. But guys like Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler, or Kofi Kingston. But here's the thing: they're kind of getting more recognition now, and they're kind of doing a little bit more now. So that's why those guys are not nowhere on my list, because I feel like WWE is actually doing something with them now, and they're actually being improved upon.
Yeah, no, and I thought about putting Big E in my honorable mentions, but again, they're doing something with them. So,
yeah.
I mean, you could really make a case for the whole New Day, but again, they're doing something with them.
Exactly. This is like the biggest these guys have ever been.
Yeah. So definitely a very solid list. I really enjoyed your list. I don't know what the number 5 of the next month's top 5 is going to be. We'll decide that later.
Yes.
But we'll probably announce it next week when we do our Crown Jewel stuff. If the fucking Crown Jewel happens, I don't know anymore.
Well, we're doing Evolution first.
Oh yeah, fuck! I forgot. Evolution's happening.
We might discuss it then. But thank you all for watching this good old top 5 list that we did. We hope you enjoyed it, and I apologize for the technical difficulties I had during this, but it's all good because I'm on my phone. So
yeah, no, thank you guys for watching. Please check out my buddy's channel. Subscribe to him. Subscribe to me. Comment, like, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Do all the kind of fun stuff. Do that to him as well. And until next time, guys. Have a nice day.
No, holler if you hear me.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Holler. Let's start over, all right?
All right, now.
And just remember, guys, I want you to holler.
Holler.
If you hear me.
Hell yeah.